The Lubavitcher Rebbe was looking for Bobby Fischer. He tried to get to him. The Rebbe tried to get to Bobby Fischer. You ever heard of Reshevsky, Sammy Reshevsky? He was one of the great grandmasters of chess. He was one of the few Americans who was competitive at that level, on the world-class level in the 20th century. And he competed against Fischer. Reshevsky was also a Jew. He was born in Poland from a family of Ger Chassidim, but as a child he moved to America, and he actually grew up in Crown Heights, Brooklyn. And in fact, in the 1940s, he had Yechidus with the 6th Rebbe of Chabad. And after the Frierdiker Rebbe's passing, he continued to have a relationship with the 7th Rebbe. And Reshevsky was famous for being Shomer Shabbos. He kept Shabbos, he would not compete on Shabbos, and that was like a well-known thing. So in 1982, he turned 70, and he wanted to retire. You know, in general, the Rebbe was against retirement. The Rebbe never retired. Spoke about it's not good to retire. So Reshevsky was 70 already in 1982. And he wanted to retire. The Rebbe told him, don't retire. You should continue to compete. Because when you compete, it's a Kiddush Hashem. It's a sanctification of God's name. Why? Because he didn't compete on Shabbos. And it was a known thing. In fact, I'll tell you a story in a second where he competed with Bobby Fischer, and his Shabbos observance actually factored into the story. I want to go back in time a little bit to the 60s. There was an incident that took place at the Beverly Hills Hilton called the Match of the Century. 1961, between Bobby Fischer and Sammy Reshevsky, both American Jews. And it was Friday afternoon, and it was still tied, and they had to stop because of Shabbos. So they told Bobby Fischer, we're going to continue on Sunday morning. Bobby Fischer was not a morning person. They say he had the circadian rhythm of a bartender. So he slept in and he missed the Sunday match. And then they scheduled another match. He slept in for that too. And he forfeited. And then he sued the World Chess League. But at any rate, that's not even the main point of the story. I told you. So Reshevsky was going to retire in 1982 at the age of 70. The Rebbe told him, continue to compete because you make a Kiddush Hashem when you compete because you keep Shabbos. So what happened is in 1984, at the age of 72, Reshevsky went to the Reykjavik Open in Iceland. And he tied for first place. And afterwards he got a letter from the Rebbe congratulating him on winning. In PS of the letter, and I'm going to read to you the PS of the letter. The following lines may appear strange, but I consider it my duty not to miss the opportunity to bring it to your attention. This is 1982. The Rebbe is told, or 1984, 1984, Reshevsky is 72 years old. The Rebbe has told him not to retire, and now he just tied for first place at the Reykjavik Open. The Rebbe writes words of congratulations, and then a PS, and says, you may find this strange, but I'll feel remiss in my duty not to mention this. You are surely familiar with the life story of Bobby Fischer, of whom nothing has been heard in quite some time. This is the early 80s. Bobby Fischer dropped off the map in the 70s, became a recluse, became a hermit. His strained relationship with his Jewish identity was one of many issues. He became very combative and very, he was, thank God in those days the paparazzi were not as in full force as they are today, because he was a spectacle. He was somebody who had been a great hero of American culture. I told you, during the Cold War, he was the only American who was really competitive against the Soviets. And he had this tragic fall. So the Rebbe says, nothing's been heard. Where's Bobby Fischer? Unfortunately, he did not appear to have the proper Jewish education, which is probably the reason for his being so alienated from the Jewish way of life or the Jewish people. So the Rebbe here is giving a probable narrative. And he's stating it mildly, that Bobby Fischer is estranged from the Jewish people. But the Rebbe is saying, what do you want from him? He didn't get an education. He grew up going to a public school in Brooklyn, and he didn't get the right education. However, being a Jew, he should be helped by whomever possible. So Lubavitcher Rebbe is sitting in Brooklyn, running his entire organization, and he has an entire community. He has chassidim, schools, and congregations, and community centers, and any regular leader like that in that position would say, you know what? Bobby Fischer, he already chose his lot. Bobby Fischer has renounced the Jewish people. He's not our problem anymore. It's not our problem. Lubavitcher Rebbe is writing to Sammy Reshevsky and saying, listen, 72 years old and he's giving him work. That's very typical of the Rebbe. Saying, I want you to go find out where's Bobby Fischer, because he received a poor education. That's all it is. And he's Jewish. And it's because he's Jewish, we got to help him. I'm writing to you about this since you are probably better informed about him than many other persons, and perhaps you may find some way in which he could be brought back to the Jewish fold, either through your personal efforts or in some other way. And Reshevsky actually took the shlichus very seriously, and he went to L.A., where Fischer lived. I think he lived in Pasadena. And they met and they spoke for 3 hours. Now you're going to say, so then Bobby Fischer stopped renouncing his Judaism, and then he put on tefillin and became Shabbos observant and a proud observant Jew. No, he didn't. This is not Hollywood. This is real life. The story happened in L.A., but it's not Hollywood. It's real life. And in real life, sometimes we don't see the end of the story. You know, I had a dear, dear friend who was one of the most intelligent people I've ever known in my life, and he was a Buddhist priest. And we used to study Tanya together because he was Jewish. And when a Jew becomes a Buddhist, he can't be a regular Buddhist, he has to be the Buddhist priest, right? But we used to study Tanya together. And he was such a genius. I really enjoyed studying with him. But whenever I talk about him, and then people say, well, where is he now? And I say, well, he passed away. And they say, well, did he become religious before he passed away? And I say, no, this isn't Hollywood. He was cremated and his ashes were scattered in Tibet. Okay, because that's what happens in this gullus. That's what happens in this crazy exile. That's what happens. But that doesn't make truth any less true. The truth that remains true and eventually will be revealed to all as true is that even my friend who was cremated thinking that he was a Buddhist, and even Bobby Fischer who renounced his Jewish identity, and any other example you want to come and you want to bring to me and say, even him and even him and even her. Yes. And it's sad and it's tragic when somebody is so divorced from their own essence. Could there be a greater dysfunction than someone who is divorced from their own self? But what do you think redemption means? It means a lot of things. It means world peace. It means an end to hunger. It means an end to disease. It means a lot of things. But one of the things it also means, and all these things are connected, is that the essence will no longer be able to be hidden or distorted. And the true identity of every single Jewish person is going to be brought to the fore, even if Hashem himself has to go on a case-by-case basis and take by the hand and bring with him and coax every individual Jew and say, it's okay, you can come home now. You can come back to yourself now. So, bottom line, here's what we have to know. First of all, if you think that you're the Jew who's the wicked son, and that there's no coming back, and that you already wrote yourself off, and you're even worse than Bobby Fischer, I highly doubt anyone sitting here tonight feels that way. I mean, maybe if I'd see someone brand new I never recognized, I would say, oh, maybe they just wandered in. But I highly doubt anyone sitting here feels that way about themselves. Maybe someone watching online right now, accidentally the algorithm did something weird and sent you to a rabbi, and somehow you got almost an hour into a talk from a rabbi. Maybe you like chess and you saw it was about Bobby Fischer and you just started watching and you got to this point. So what I want to tell you is, come back to yourself, come back to the truth, own who you are. You cannot undo who you are. Okay, that's one. But here's I think the more important lesson, and this is the call of the hour, and this is the work that we have to do until Mashiach comes. And that is, when you meet one of your brothers and sisters who claim to not be a brother or a sister, you can tell them that's fine, because you know what? Back in Egypt, it was a clannish type of thing. It was brothers and sisters, and you could denounce the family, and you could say, I don't want to be part of this family, and it would work. Back in Egypt, if you would say, I am giving up my membership to this family, and it would work. And in fact, 4/5 of our people made that choice, and they're gone. But once God brought you to Sinai, and I say you as an individual, he brought your soul to Sinai, and he gathered you with all the Jewish souls around that mountain, and he revealed himself to us in his holy Torah and his will and his plan for the world. That's it. Your essence was changed, and there's no going back. There's no way to set back the clock and go back to the way things were back in Egypt. So we have to have this message ready. We have to be clear about it. We can't get confused about it. I'm getting very, very concerned about the fact that in the Orthodox community, I'm seeing confusion about this, where people feel greater fellowship and affinity for people who share their ideological views than they feel an affinity and an essential connection to those who are fellow members of the Jewish people. Okay? I know it's... My friend Asi Spiegel from Tzfas was in town last week. He came to SoulWords Studios, and we sat down and we spoke, and he was talking about the fact that, you know, nowadays we were reminiscing when we were Bachar, when we were yeshiva boys. It was understood that most Jews you speak to are going to have a standoffish attitude, and they're going to ridicule religion, and they're going to be at odds with you ideologically. But that was all part of the fun. We loved that, and we were kind of lamenting the fact that in today's day and age, in 2023, it seems like a lot of our colleagues have become comfortable with just associating in pockets of ideologically similarly thinking people, where it just became sort of like, you know, you hang out with the people who you can discuss politics with without arguing. And it's like, that's you're missing the point. You're missing the point. Like, a Jew is a Jew is a Jew is a Jew. And if there's a Jew who disagrees with everything that you believe is Jewish, and let's say you're right, not only you believe it's Jewish, you're right, you know what's Jewish, and you met a Jew who's antagonistic to every single idea that's a Jewish idea, okay, fine. So don't talk about anything with them. So give them chicken soup. So say l'chaim, so sing a song, so dance a dance, so give them a hug. But it doesn't change the fact that the essence is the essence. And so very, very, very soon when Mashiach comes, every single Jew, even Bobby Fischer, he'll come back, and he'll be at peace, and he'll be able to embrace who he is. And everyone else, every other Jew who was confused about who they are, they're going to have clarity, and the whole world's going to have clarity. And it should be really, 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 it's been long enough. It should be already now. It should be tonight.
Hey, this is Shais Taub. You were just watching a clip from this class. If you want to get the full context, the full class that this clip that you just watched was from, you watch right here. Click right here.